thanks for watching. Today I wanted to share with you Flame Toys Black Star Saber from their Kuro Karakuri line. But before I kick off, I just wanted to quickly say a huge thanks to everyone that's supported my channel so far. Every subscribe, like, and especially comment means a lot to me and encourages me to keep creating videos. So I just wanted to say a huge thanks. Okay, so as I said, this is the Black Star Saber from Flame Toys Ultra Premium Kuro Karakuri line of Transformers figures, which is a repaint of their original Star Saber. Sadly, I don't have that figure to show you and compare, but it was released a couple of years ago as the third figure in that line. So there was Drift, then Tarn, and then Star Saber. And now this repaint was released late last year and is limited to just 800 pieces and was only available through a couple of retailers in Hong Kong. Interestingly, it's not a shattered glass release as they've done with their re-releases of the Red Drift and upcoming Purple Optimus Prime. Technically, the Transformers Shattered Glass line is like a Bizarro type alternate universe where the Autobots are the baddies and the Decepticons are the good guys. And in those releases, the Autobot logo is always purple and the Decepticon logo is red. But as you can see here, Star Saber is clearly wearing a Decepticon logo. So I'm not too sure if there were two Star Sabers or how this guy came about. All the Kuro Karakuri releases are based on the IDW comic series in canon, which I'm not super familiar with, and so I unfortunately don't know much about this guy's background. I do remember the Star Saber from the Transformers Armada cartoon series though, but that was a weapon formed by Minicons. So I guess like a lot of the different Transformers universes, they like to borrow identities and likenesses, but there's often no direct link between the characters. But my unfamiliarity with the IDW universe beyond their G1 storylines was one of the reasons why I didn't initially jump on these figures, despite the fact that they obviously look amazing. Most of the Transformers figures I like to collect are strictly G1, and even more specifically up to the movie, so the end of season 2. Of course there's exceptions, but they're the ones that I have the strongest attachment with from my childhood. Another reason I'm a bit late to this line is the cost of the figures. However, as I'll talk about in a bit, the engineering, the details, the quality of the parts, the insane amount of labor and QC that would be required, now that I've experienced them in hand, I'm surprised they don't cost more. They really do raise the bar for Transformers figures to a Hot Toys-like level. And I can imagine if someone did like a non-posable statue of Transformers with this level of detail and paintwork, they wouldn't be far off the same price. But these guys are still very much toys in the sense that you get a heap of playability with all the included accessories and the incredible range of posability and expression. The final reason I didn't really get into this line earlier is that they have the dubious honor of being Transformers toys that don't transform. That's right. There's no alt modes, there's just the robot figures. They of course have all the visual cues suggesting their transformations as Transformer robot modes do, but let's get it out of the way early so we're all on the same page. To be fair, there's absolutely no way that you could have such a detailed, articulated figure that could transform to an alt mode with similar levels of articulation and detail. What Fans Toys has done engineering-wise on so many of their figures, I feel, is the ultimate in transforming Transformers toys. I know it sounds pretty silly to have to qualify transforming Transformer toys, but if you're more about displaying robot modes and non-G1 representations aren't a deal breaker for you, then these Flame Toys bots really blow the Fans Toys stuff out of the water, no contest. And that's no disrespect to Fans Toys, it's just the level of these are just truly unmatched. Speaking of Fans Toys, this is probably a good opportunity to mention that Flame Toys figures are fully licensed from Hasbro. So unlike third-party toys from the likes of Fans Toys, X-Transbots and so on, who have to use like made-up names and you've got to put faction decals on yourself, lest they get sued and put out of business, Flame Toys are what I guess you'd call second-party. They're not made by Hasbro or have any association to my knowledge other than paying licensing, but that does mean that they're able to faithfully recreate the figures with their proper names and details, which is great to see. So the Kuro Karakuri line is about incredibly detailed, incredibly posable robot figures. If you think about it as Transformers crossed with Gundam, but they have die-cast skeletons, they're pre-built, pre-painted, and feature built-in LED lights, then you're pretty much there. They also come with a stack of weapons and accessories that are equally as detailed as the robots themselves. So if you can swallow the fact that they don't transform, and the price tag, they are amazing. Actually, I've ordered Megatron, and that's what I was planning to review, but for whatever reason, although it seems like the figure was released through some retailers months ago, most are yet to start shipping. But because it's an incredibly slippery slope, I also picked up the re-release of their Tarn figure, as well as this guy that you're obviously here to see, the limited edition Black Star Saber. Hopefully I'll get a chance to review their Megatron if and when it does arrive, so if you're interested in that, please do subscribe to check it out. Okay, so we've kind of covered what the Flame Toys Kurokarakuri line is. I want to dive into this guy and show you what you're getting in terms of what comes in the box, but also what he can actually do. I also understand that figures like this are pretty aspirational, so I really hope to showcase this figure and give you an appreciation for what Flame Toys has created here. So I know it's a bit formulaic, but I'll kick off just by showing you the actual box. Similar to the rest of the line, he comes in a pretty nice display box, matte finish with some foil detail. The front panel is magnetic, so you can flip it open and see what's inside. Once you do get inside, there's a fair bit of stuff, but the main attraction is obviously the figure himself, which is pretty stripped down and thin. He's 25 centimeters tall or 30 centimeters with the wings fully spread out. So that's almost a foot. I mentioned Gundam earlier, and those cues are really prominent in the proportions and all the angular details. But he also reminds me a bit of an Evangelion Eva unit in the sense that he has a super tiny waist and reasonably thin limbs that you can then pad out with the various accessories that we'll go through in a minute. Now, hopefully you can see how gorgeous this guy looks. To be honest, being a really dark figure, I had a hard time shooting all the detail in the shadowy areas, so hopefully it's coming across. Every panel is painstakingly thought out and has detail that combines cohesively with everything that's going on in terms of geometric shapes and sharp angles that speak to Star Saber's reputation as a legendary swordsman. The materials all feel high quality and the painting is top notch with a lot of shiny gloss and flat matte contrast from panel to panel. The more time I spend looking at this guy, I appreciate it more and more, and it's like you never stop noticing new details. As I continue the review, you'll see evidence of this in pretty much every shot. There's a great weight to the figure. Fully suited up, he's over 700 grams or 1.5 pounds, and it appears that he has a completely die-cast inner skeleton that adds a great amount of sturdiness to him when posing. There's no ratchet joints inside. Everything is just wonderfully smooth friction joints, so you can get precise posing across his seemingly endless points of articulation. So when you start to look at joints like his knees and his elbows, you understand the price tag for these Kurokarakuri figures. There's multiple layers of metal all working in smooth silent harmony to provide a wide range of motion. His shoulder covers can be opened up to allow even greater extension for his arm lift. He has a 2-stage ab crunch and can move laterally from the hips too, so there's a lot of tiny details that combine to mean you can create ultra-realistic looking poses. Even the fact that his ankle joint has a little cover that slides down to hide the mechanics behind shows the insane attention to detail. Other than the huge scope of articulation, the other standout for the Kurokarakuri line is the integrated lighting. This guy takes a whopping 14 batteries and has 8 different lights if you include the alternate head. So there's the chest plate, which just pulls off the front. That also exposes the head power switch, but alternatively you can pull the head out to turn it on or off. Then each shoulder you access via the back, just remove the purple panels. And finally, near the leg, you need to take off the side boosters if they're attached, then this panel at the rear before you can switch on or off. I love light up features on figures, and while you could argue is a bit of a gimmick, I do think that these bring the figure to life, especially since he's so dark. My beef here though is that each light needs to be switched on and off individually as you just saw. So it's a massive task to take apart all the panels, and unless you're specifically shooting photos or videos of him, you're rarely going to turn them on, as you'll not only run down the batteries, but dread the process of turning them all off again. I may be expecting too much, but it would be great to have a single on-off switch, or alternatively something integrated into the stand, so you could put chunky D batteries or even like a USB power into it and run it non-stop. Moving on to take a look at the accessories, there's a ton here which is fantastic, but again, kind of what you'd expect with a figure at this price point. So you get a couple of leg attachments that are kind of like flight boosters and bulk up his lower legs. These are pre-attached in the box, but he doesn't look naked without it, so I'm still classing them as an accessory. Then you get these shoulder add-ons that just press into the shoulders and add a bit more color and detail. These to me feel a bit unnecessary, but they're there and you don't have to use them all the time. He has these Wolverine-like braces for his forearms that can be clipped on if you like, and to me they can go either way around. I refer to the Flame Toys promo shots to see that they have the longer solid side going down his hand rather than the Wolverine claws. But as long as the long bit doesn't get in the way of your pose, you can reverse it and it looks really cool. Just to show you the level of design detail in these figures, you can see that even this has a little spring in it to allow the section to move. Also, this guy is sharp. Bits like those claws, these shoulder pauldrons all over. He has incredibly pointy ends. So it goes without saying, don't let your kids go crazy playing with this. It really is dangerous. And secondly, just be careful that you don't inadvertently scratch other panels, the painting and stuff when you're posing him. But plenty of times you're gonna get jabbed with this guy. It's no joke. Next up is the party piece in his incredible backplate or wings. It's kind of like a jetpack that when closed looks ominous enough with the combined sharp prongs that the blades form, but it can of course be opened out to these insane blade wings that just take his presence to another level and really seal the Gundam look for me. The backpack just clips into his back, and then the wings have this amazing interlock design. You don't necessarily have to have them fully extended either, and each side can rotate on either axis, so while they're huge on his back, there's usually a way to get them out of the way of his shoulders and swords and stuff. Really outstanding work by Flame Toys on that feature. So my only other Kuro Karakuri figure that I've got so far is Tarn, and he has fully posable hands and fingers. But with Star Saber, they've gone with replaceable, rigid, pre-posed hands. I can't say whether I'm a fan of either approach more than the other, to be honest. Obviously with articulated fingers, you don't have to unpack new hands from the box and you can get more expression. But obviously Star Saber needed to hold a lot of different swords. He has 3, which we'll get to in a minute. So I assume they chose the multiple rigid hands for that reason. You do get 6 sets of them, which is a lot. He comes with a closed fist pre-fitted, then you have 4 in the next tray. A fully open hand, a partially open hand, then 2 sword holding poses, one with a straight wrist and one bent to give you more of an angle for certain poses. Then under the stand in the bottom of the box, there is a loose bag with his gun holding hands. This is a pretty comprehensive range and allows you to get a wide range of expression, while not having to fuss with individual fingers popping out all the time, which would be a nightmare, particularly on poses where he's holding a sword with both hands. Next up is a secondary head, and this is interesting as it really changes his character. The default head that you can see here is incredible, but almost too noble for a Decepticon, if that doesn't sound too pretentious. It has a huge amount of detail, all the little sharp elements that tie into his body aesthetic. Here's the Prime style mouth plate, which other than Soundwave, I can't think of any Decepticons off the top of my head that have that face. So it gives him almost like a merciful or sympathetic feel, in my opinion. But then the second head, while it has a lot less detail, is totally Decepticon and a lot of fun. It reminds me a lot of Devastator with the red visor and the really pronounced chin. To switch the heads over, there's no tabs or anything. You just firmly pull up and then insert the replacement head and push it in. I like the way it pairs with his gun also, but I don't think one works without the other, just due to the personality of the 2 faces. The rifle itself has beautiful detail both in terms of paint and design, lots of little bits that flip out and extend. At first it seemed like an afterthought though. As I mentioned before, the gun hands and the rifle are just loosely bagged at the bottom of the box. But one important and I would say incredibly cheeky feature of the Kuro Karakuri line is that despite the fact you're paying an arm and a leg for these figures, Flame Toys does exclusive accessory versions that are only available via the D4 Toys website out of Hong Kong. I assume they either own it outright or have some kind of deal with them, but essentially unless you pre-order your figures from D4 Toys, you're missing out. So for example, Tarn came with an alternate mask. Megatron had a weapon suitcase, which sounds kind of dumb, but it's kind of cool in a robot hitman kind of sense. Optimus Prime had an insanely giant axe that's so desirable it basically became a currency of its own. And the original Star Saber had this rifle as a D4 Toys exclusive. Now technically this whole figure is somewhat of an exclusive, although it was available through other retailers, so there's only one version thankfully. But it's a pretty bitter pill to swallow when you spend a ton of money on an amazing figure but it's still shortchanged somehow, just because you didn't pre-order it from their official website. So while the game is rigged, the lesson is if you're interested in this line at all, pre-order them direct from D4 Toys to make sure you're getting the additional accessories. Moving on from the rifle, we finally get to Star Saber's swords, and there's 3 all up. You get one mega sword that when fully extended is almost the height of the figure itself, and 2 smaller swords with matching saya or sheaths that can be fitted to his hips. Taking a look at the big sword first, it's quite Western in style in that the blade is double-edged, symmetrical, and the tip of the sword is much broader than the base. The blade is translucent purple with a silver insert, again heaps of detail. I should probably stop saying that as literally everything on this figure is intricately detailed and painted. An interesting gimmick is that the hilt of the sword can be pulled out further, which pushes the guard up and reveals a transparent piece in the center that light can shine through. I don't know if one is meant to be used more than the other. In my opinion, they both look a little bit weird. I prefer it pushed halfway in so that the hilt is straight. There's a nice long handle that he can hold with both hands and also a little clip so that it can be stored on his backpack when not in use. Next is the pair of swords. They're smaller, but I wouldn't call them small. They have a slightly more Japanese feel to them in that the blades are one way, even though they're straight. There's some really cool embossed lettering detail, and they have the same clear hilt mechanic as the larger sword. Each has its own sheath, so you can mount them onto his hips to reinforce the robot sword theme even more so, and it further contributes to the overall angular, sharp design. Probably the only complaint I have about the whole figure is putting the weapons into the hands. Some of the Bandai Soul of Chogokin figures have removable handles on the weapons, so you can actually slide the handle into the hand opening and connect it back together. But this doesn't appear to do that, and there's no mention in the manual at all of how to put the weapons into the hands. The hand openings are very small and stiff, so you have to work very hard to get them in. I reached out to Flame Toys to confirm, as it's so tight it seems incorrect, but they confirmed that's the only way to do it, unfortunately. So be careful. I did have one hand come apart, but thankfully they're assembled in pieces so you can re-glue it, and it's good as new. But given how well thought out the rest of the figure is, this oversight really surprises me. And the last accessory in the set is his shield. I said I wouldn't continually comment on how much detail there is, so I won't say too much here, but it clips onto the forearm and can rotate also. So like the rest of this guy, you're almost unlimited in the posability. Not an accessory as such, but you also get a stand for him that supports his weight and allows you to create flying or mid-air poses. There's no nameplate or logos or anything on it, and I'm not sure about the black, to be honest. I definitely would have preferred it to be clear so that the figure could stand out more. To assemble and use the stand, you just clip this piece into the base, then pull out this piece at the back that locks it. Extend the stand and push the lock back into place. Insert the mounting piece into the figure and then slide it onto the base. Take care if you want to adjust the angle, as the mount doesn't rotate. Instead, you need to pull it apart here, rotate it, and then push it back together. So all in all, this guy is pretty special, but as I said at the top, it comes at a price, and if you don't get in on the ground floor with the Kuro Karakuri line by picking it up at retail, then it starts to get ridiculous if you're looking on the secondary market. Flame Toys has already shown that they're willing to reissue figures with Tarn, and honestly, I don't understand them not doing it for all figures, as the interest in this line is only continuing to grow. It could be that they have a strategy of re-releasing or issuing a variant. So they had a Shattered Glass Drift, a reissue of Tarn. This is a variant of the Star Saber, obviously, and then Prime has his Shattered Glass version on the way. If they did reissue the original figures, I could be tempted, but for now I'm very happy with this Decepticon Star Saber and how he pairs with Tarn and eventually Megatron when he arrives. I want to mention that Flame Toys just closed the pre-order for their Victory Leo figure, which combines with Star Saber to form Victory Saber. That was the standard Autobot one designed to pair with the original Kuro Karakuri Star Saber, but Flame Toys has confirmed that a Decepticon version designed to pair with this color variant will be coming too. So if you have this figure, it's definitely something you may want to look out for. As always, thanks for watching, and as I said at the top of the video, I really appreciate your support. If you like the video, please do subscribe to catch more. I'm not the most prolific creator on YouTube, but I hope that you enjoy the attention to detail that I try to put into each one that I do release. And just a heads up that I also have a video on the channel that is just the toy shots from this review, including some that didn't end up in the final cut. So if you want to just sit back for 10 minutes and marvel at how incredible this guy looks without my head or voice getting in the way, then please check that out. Thanks again, and see you next time.